Okay, we'll start now. See, today we are going to study one of the most important and interesting topics uh, of philosophy of religion. That is paper 2 of philosophy optional. Uh, we will discuss about God. So actually, if you see the syllabus, God is divided in basically two topics. One is nature and attributes of God, and another is proofs for existence of God. So today, in this class, what we are going to do is we will try to study the nature of God, notions of God basically, which includes nature and attributes of God, and also God's relation with man and world. So these are two subtopics in that topic. And this is most interesting because this is a very, very lively topic in the society because everybody is interested or either believes or in one kind of God or other kind of God, or even if atheists are there, they have their own logic for not believing in God. So basically, all kinds of notions we do study in uh, philosophy. So therefore, this becomes most interesting and widely applicable part of philosophy in the society. So now let us try to understand uh, what is the notion of God and how we will try to uh, basically find out the relation of God with man and the world. See, the syllabus says notions of God, which includes, as I told, there are two subtopics. In one is attributes, and another is relation to man and the world. Now, in this, basically, why it becomes interesting, because a number of questions are there, which everybody, every individual, every human being wants to know, whether he believes or disbelieves, or one kind of belief or other kind of belief. So, therefore, this becomes one of the most interesting and important topics. What kind of questions a normal person asks? For example, what is the ultimate reality behind the world? Is this really a personal or impersonal? Does it govern the universe? Does it care for human beings? Can we relate it to emotionally, morally, or intellectually? So, all these are the questions about God, which normally any human being would like to know or at least keeps on asking. Now, see, before we go little deeper, we should try to understand there have been three major notions throughout the history pertaining to God. One is naturalistic notion, where God is believed as nature or nature God, vice versa. Second is personalistic notion, God as a supreme person who has qualities just like human beings have qualities. God may have infinite goodness, but still, I mean, the qualities, infiniteness may vary, but it's just like a person. Then third is impersonalistic notion. God is not a person, or personality is beyond that, and he is basically absolute reality behind this world, behind everything, whatever we understand or we see. Now, before studying these notions, because these notions we'll try to study in detail, let us try to first understand attributes of God, because this is again very, very important. A number of questions are asked. So here, what we are doing, we are trying to understand these notions and attributes in brief. And I request the students to go through the books which has been already have prescribed, I mean, in my orientation lecture. So you can go to the books and you will find in detail all these things. And this is a very brief kind of notes made out of those books, so which we are going to study. Now, attributes of God. Let us try to understand what are the attributes of God. Now, attributes of God are again divided in two categories basically. First category is metaphysical, second is moral. Now, metaphysical basically discusses about the nature. I mean, that is metaphysics regarding reality. So, I mean, in philosophy, you will keep on encountering with these words, metaphysical, epistemological. So, you should understand each and every word. So, God also, I mean, maybe I will take another class. I have already earlier taken class videos already available, which explains these technical words in detail so that you can understand. You can also take a good dictionary of philosophy where all these words are explained properly and you can understand that. So God has basically, God's attributes are divided in two basic categories. One is metaphysical, another is moral. Now metaphysical categories basically describes God's nature, and moral attributes describe God's ethical and relational qualities. So these are two kinds of broad attributes of God. Now, uh, I mean, why this very important? Because these kind of attributes, they shape various religions or various religious worship. They also uh, shape how believers psychologically relate to God. I mean, with themselves or with the society or with this world. So these attributes also become very, very important. Now, what are the metaphysical attributes? What can be the metaphysical attributes? Now, let us try to understand little detail. First is unity, oneness. That is, God is one and indivisible. He is ultimate reality, cannot be split in parts, as Upanishadic verse is there, Ekam Sat Vipra Baudha Vadanti. So truth is one. So God is one, indivisible. Then second quality, metaphysical quality, is eternity. God exists beyond time, as Aquinas has said, an ever-present flow or ever-present now. This is God's definition he has given. So time flows with creation. God is not bound by past, present, or future. He is ever present. Then omnipotence. God has unlimited power to do all that is logically possible. This is again a very important metaphysical quality. But then there are debates. If God is omnipotent, can he do logical things? Can he do illogical things also, or irrational things also? For example, can he make 2 plus 2 5? So these kind of discussions are there in philosophy, which will subsequently also we will see. But the point is, omnipotence here means God has unlimited power to do all that which is logically possible. Then similarly, omniscience, another metaphysical attribute to God. God knows everything, past, present, and future. So this is what omniscience means. Now, thinkers like Ramanuja and Leibniz, they support this quality. However, omniscience also again has a lot of discussion with free will, which we'll also subsequently see, because if God is omniscient, how it is possible? I mean, how free will is possible, or how freedom of will is possible? So all those things will be there. But yes, this omniscience is another quality. Then another quality is omnipresence. So God is present everywhere, not physically, but as the ground of existence. As one of the verse of Gita, 9.4 verse of Gita says, I pervade the whole universe. This is what omnipresence means. Then spirituality. God is pure consciousness. So consciousness which is unlimited. Then immutability. God is unchanging, because change implies imperfection. Then another metaphysical quality is absoluteness. So God is independent and self-sufficient. He depends on nothing, because if he depends on something, then his again his power becomes limited. So everything else depends on him. So this is absoluteness. So basically, uh, these metaphysical attributes make God the ultimate explanation for the universe, and these qualities are required for any personalistic God. So these are the attributes, uh, metaphysical attributes of the God. Now, what are the moral attributes of the God? Let us try to understand that. Now, moral attributes basically show why God is worthy of devotion and love. So this is the main reason. Now, first quality is compassion. God cares for human suffering. Now, this has been seen in, India's Indian philosophy, Bhakti literature, or Buddhism, or even Christianity, Western religions, Christianity, God is love. So, compassion is very, very important quality of God, moral quality of God. Then, second is justice. God ensures moral order, that is karma, law of karma. So, He ensures karma, divine judgment. Then, holiness. God is pure and perfect. Then, uh, forgiveness. God pardons human errors. So this is again important quality, because uh, these moral attributes, goodness and benevolence, forgiveness, these moral attributes basically create hope in any human being, and therefore these are important for emotional bonding, for faith, and for any kind of hope or worship, because then only the God can be an object of worship. So basically, if you see, these two categories of qualities make a perfect personalistic God. Now, as I told, attributes of God is one part. Second part is basically notions of God. That is how God is related with man and this world itself. So there are three notions of God. Now, let us try to understand those three notions. Now, it has developed basically in three broad stages, historically also. So, naturalistic, personalistic, and impersonalistic. So, each of these are a particular stage of development, and also requirement, human needs and requirement of a particular time period or particular period of time. Now, let us first try to see naturalistic notion of God. Now, this is earliest, uh, simplest, and nature oriented. Now, as you know, this notion clearly equates God with natural forces, because nature is God. So, natural forces become God. So, natural forces are seen as a divine forces, and this is mostly prehistoric or historical period of time when humans lacked scientific knowledge, lived close to nature. They treated uh, natural events as a God sent events. For example, storm, fire, river, wind, all these at many places are worshipped as God. Examples, if you see Vedic, in Vedas also, Agni, Indra, Varuna. Similarly, in Greek gods, Zeus and Poseidon. Then African tribal deities are there. Then Japanese Shinto. So all these places, nature or various forces of nature were treated as God. Now, scientists and psychologists, they have gone into this in detail, and they try to find out why this kind of belief has arisen. So, because humans experienced fear, wonder, ignorance of natural causes were there at that point of time, and dependence on nature was there for survival. So, they actually attributed agency and intention to natural forces. So, this is the main reason which has been brought out by the scientists and psychologists. Now, let us try to, a few more points. Modern scientific insight. What is their modern scientific insight in this? As I told already, psychologists like Barrett and anthropologists like Taylor, and similarly biologists, show that humans have a built-in tendency to see agency everywhere. For example, thunder is equated to anger, disease is equated to punishment. But it's not that this was there in historic times only. In modern times also, there are some philosophical support which has been given to this naturalistic criteria of God. For example, Spinoza is one thinker. He equated God with nature. Similarly, Einstein also admired Spinoza's God of order and not of intervention. So, in modern times also, there is some support as far as the uh, naturalistic notion of God is concerned. Now, what are the positive points? Because every thinking or every idea has positive points and weaknesses. So, let us try to understand what are the strengths of this kind of view or thinking. Now, naturalistic notion of God helps us how understand religions begin, encourages respect for environment, of course, creates a sense of unity with nature. So these are positive points for this. Now, what are the weaknesses of this kind of thinking? This is not scientifically proven. This is scientifically outdated. It is based on projection and fear. It cannot explain the moral values. Then polytheistic, I mean, it's polytheistic because definitely one God or unity, absoluteness of God is not proven here. So it's polytheistic and lacks unity. It treats God as a means and not an end. So this is again a very, I mean, not very positive point as far as this notion is concerned. So therefore, naturalistic notion is important historically, but it is philosophically quite weak notion. So this is what naturalistic notion of God. Now we'll go to second notion, personalistic notion of God. Now, as I have written in heading itself, it is one of the most popular devotional and emotionally appealing notion of God. Despite it also has a number of negative points, but still, this is one of the most popular devotional and emotionally appealing notion of God, personalistic notion of God. Here, God is understood as a supreme person. He is something uh, beyond, in a personalistic form itself, but he is a supreme person. That's what is understood. Now, he has self consciousness, he has intelligence, he has free will, he has love, justice, ability to respond to prayer. And this is the God of most religious traditions. Whatever important religious traditions are there, this is the God. And the attributes which we have discussed just now, metaphysical attributes and moral attributes, all those attributes are qualities of this personalistic God. Now, what are the key features of this kind of thinking? First is God creates, sustains, and governs the world. This is one very important thinking, and this is thinking of most of the religions. God listens to prayers. God has a moral concern. God enters into personal relationship with humans. God can intervene in the world. So these are all beliefs of personalistic God. I mean, features of personalistic notion of God, you can say. Now, there are number of Indian schools which are supporting this personalistic notion. First is Nyaya Vaisesik. If you have already gone through the Indian philosophy part, so Nyaya Vaisesik supports this. Iswara creates atomic world. So they have the notion of Iswara. They have given a number of proofs also of Iswara. So Nyaya Vaisesik supports personalistic notion of God. Then we have Ramanuja, Vishishtadvait. For him, God is personal, omnipotent, and loving. Then again, Vedanta itself, we have another branch of Vedanta, that is Madhava, the Dvait Vedanta. There also, God is Supreme Lord. Then there is a Bhakti tradition also in India, Bhakti saints, Meera, Chaitanya, Tulsidas, etc. So all these saints also believe that God is a personalistic. It has support in Western philosophy also, or Western religion also. For example, Plato supports this, Aristotle supports this, Aquinas, Anselm. Then religions like Christianity, Islam, Jewish, all these theologies, they support personalistic God. Now, modern thinkers like Swinburne and Platinga also, they also support. They are quite important thinkers as far as philosophy of religion is concerned. They also support personalistic God. Now, there are some modern developments also. So briefly, we have to understand that. I mean, in detail, subsequent classes will try to take up those concepts. But uh, in this personalistic notion of God, there has been some modern developments. We should try to just briefly mention that or understand that. One is process theism. This process theism says even though God is personalistic, but God is dynamic and interacts with this world, and he does not have some attributes like omnipotence, omniscience, etc., which have been described earlier. Then another branch is open theism. It says that future is open, God knows the possibilities, but events are not fixed. So again, it also denies omniscience, omnipotence. Then another view is panentheism, that word exists in God, but God exceeds the word, or God is beyond this word. So this is again another view is there. Now, what are the positive points or strengths of personalistic God? As I have already told, this is one of the very, very important or strongest view as far as God is concerned, believed by most of the persons. So strengths, if you see, this view gives a meaning to prayer, devotion, and worship. Because of this view only, this is possible. It offers moral guidance and emotional support. It explains law of karma, that is karmic order. It helps human feel connected to a higher power for psychological support. So these are, in brief, the strengths of a personalistic God. But there are a number of logical contradictions and challenges as far as a personalistic God is concerned. Because personalistic God has, if you remember, all the attributes: omnipotence, omniscience, omnipresent, and all those attributes have a number of contradictions in itself. Now, one is a problem of evil. Now, problem of evil anyway separately we'll study, because this is one of the important topics, and every year at least 10 or 20 marks questions are going to come from problem of evil. So this we will take up anyway. But briefly, what is problem of evil? It says that if God is all powerful and all good, why does evil exist in this world? So this is the view of this um, uh, problem of evil, and then it contradicts with a personalistic God. Difficult events like natural disasters, disease, or genocide challenge this idea of problem of evil. Now, there are other logical contradictions also besides problem of evil. One is omniscience versus human free will. As I've already earlier also told, if God is omniscient, if he can see even future also, then where is the scope of free will, human free will? So this is again a issue. Similarly, immutability versus God responding to prayer. So this is again important contradiction. Then there is an omnipotence paradox. Can God do illegal things or illogical things basically? Can God, for example, can God make a stone he cannot lift? Or can he make 2 plus 2 is equal to 5? So this is again a omnipotence paradox. Another problem is anthropomorphism. Uh, Many thinkers have attributed that since humans are debating about God, they are making God as a personalistic God. So if horses, for example, Gene Wayne says, if horses had gods, they would look like horses. So humans tend to project their emotions and qualities onto God. That is what this thinker is saying. Then there are scientific tensions also, which with personalistic God. One is Darwin's evolution theory. It shows that life has developed through suffering and a lot of evolution. Then neuroscience, it shows religious experiences correlate with brain activity. So this is again another challenge. Then cosmology does not require a divine designer. So this is again another challenge. But despite all these challenges, despite all these negative points or criticisms, the personalistic God remains the most widespread and emotionally powerful concept in this world. Now we'll come to third notion, impersonalistic notion of God. Now this is basically uh, a philosophical kind of concept, philosophical, abstract, and metaphysically refined concept. It has lesser contradictions because definitely it's higher level, you can say, but it has other negative points also, which we'll subsequently see. But definitely the contradictions which we were seeing in personalistic notion of God are very less in number as far as impersonalistic notion of God is concerned, because it is more philosophical and more metaphysically refined concept. Here God is seen not as a person, but as absolute reality. Now that absolute reality is infinite, it is formless, it is beyond attributes, it is beyond space and time, it is beyond desire, will, and emotion. It is pure being, pure consciousness, and pure reality. So this Nirgun Brahm, if you can say, if you have Advaita Vedanta. But then the problem is this God cannot be worshipped through anthropomorphic images, because that problem creeps in once you make it philosophically refined God. Now, this view finds a number of supporters in Indian philosophy also, and Western also. For example, in Indian philosophy, Upanishads do support it. Neti, neti, not this, not this. So basically, uh, no attribution or no, I mean, attribution of any quality cannot be attributed to God, because that limits God. I mean, that is the view. Then Shankara's Advaita Vedanta, as I already told, Nirgun Brahm, or Brahm is the only reality, impersonal and non-dual. This is what Shankaracharya says. Then Gaudapada, non-origination theory, Ajativad. Then Buddhism, Nirvana and Sunnita also show that God is impersonal and there is no scope for personalistic God. Now, in Western philosophy also, a number of supporters are there. First is Plotinus, then Spinoza also. Spinoza's view also, because he projects God as infinite substance. Then Hegel, absolute spirit. Then Bradley, Bosanquet, who promoted the British idealism. Then Einstein also, God of harmony, not of personality. Now, what are the strengths of this view? First, it avoids contradictions of personalistic God, as I've already told, because once you make God omnipotent, omniscient, then you problem of free will, then problem of doing illogical things, all those things creeps in. But here, our anthropomorphism, that creeps in. Here, those contradictions are not there. It fits in scientific worldview because it's more logical. It provides a rational explanation of unity of existence. It appeals to seekers of knowledge and meditation because it's a philosophical view, it's logically coherent. So, therefore, these are the strengths. Now, what are the weaknesses of this view? Let us try to understand that. It's emotionally cold view, difficult for ordinary worship, because impersonal God cannot be worshipped by ordinary man. Definitely, philosophers and high intellectuals, for them it's okay, but for ordinary worship, it's not appropriate. It cannot explain prayer or religious devotion. It does not easily support moral order or law of karma, because usually he will not intervene. That impersonal God will not intervene. It risks becoming identical with nature or energy, because yes, because once it's impersonal, it can be definitely there is a risk of becoming it identical with nature. Hard to explain emergence of personal consciousness from an impersonal force. So this again, because personalistic God can explain this, but impersonalistic, yes, there is a problem. So impersonalistic God is philosophically powerful, but religiously limited concept. So this is what we can understand. Now there are other two things just I want to explain before I end today's class. One is believing God, another is believing in God. Because these two uh, terms basically try to clarify different attitudes towards God. Now let us see what these two attitudes mean basically. Believe God means accepting idea of God as a part of one's worldview, that is intellectual belief. Believe in God means trusting God emotionally and morally, that is faith and devotion. So basically, if you see, this is impersonalistic, and this is personalistic. Now, there's another view of God by Kant, given by Kant. Kant argues that God is needed as a moral postulate, something reason cannot prove, but morality. This we will more study in proofs for existence of God in next class, because next class we are going to take up proofs for existence of God. Um, uh, God, and there moral argument was advocated by Kant. He says that no proof is sufficient to prove except moral argument, because God is required for as a moral postulate, something which reason cannot prove. Morality requires that. So therefore, God is important. Now, let us try to understand finally in conclusion, what can be final synthesis? We have discussed three notions of God: naturalistic, personalistic, and impersonalistic. Naturalistic basically says that uh, God is nature. Personalistic, uh, God, is a person with infinite qualities. And impersonalistic, God is absolute without any qualities. Now, modern thinkers, what they do is try to combine all three concepts and try to make it more rational, because this is a modern view. Because this also you should remember, because some of the questions, uh, if you mention these one or two lines, if scope permits, your answers will be basically upgraded. For example, Paul Tillich, one of the important modern thinkers of philosophy of religion, he says that God as a ground of being. He sees God as a ground of being. Then another thinker, Teilhard de Chardin, cosmic evolutionary God. Then Neo Vedanta, the Indian philosophers, Vivekananda and Radhakrishnan, both, they see personal plus impersonal God, both together. Then other thinkers are there, Western thinkers, process theology and panentheistic thinkers, that God is dynamic, relational, and infinite. Pantheism, as we have discussed, that even though nature, God is similar to nature, but God is much bigger than nature. So that is pantheism. Then modern philosophy of mind, that is panpsychism, also says that consciousness as the basic reality, bridging personal and impersonal gap. Now, these kind of thinkers, modern thinkers, they basically result in a richer, more flexible understanding of divine, where God can be experienced emotionally, worshipped personally, and also can be understood intellectually as the absolute, because intellectual understanding is more by philosophers. So that also can be done. Now, this completes the class on notions of God. Basically, today we have discussed attributes of God and also different notions of God: naturalistic, personalistic, and impersonalistic. In next class, what we will try to do is we'll try to take up proofs for existence of God. But my request will be, please go through the books which has been prescribed, because then you will be able to understand, because these are very brief notes I have prepared. So we are discussing that only. Details definitely you will be able to see in those books where which have been prescribed. I already gave in the list in my previous classes, orientation class. So please do that. I hope that this class is useful to the students who are seeing this video. Now, thank you. We'll meet in next class. Thank you.